Ladies and gentlemen, let me talk to you for a moment about focus. Not the kind you borrow for a day, not the kind that disappears when things get uncomfortable, but the kind of focus so deep, so committed, that you forget what distractions even feel like. Because let me tell you something, every successful person you admire learned how to lock in when everybody else was looking around. See, focus starts when you finally decide what you want more than what feels good right now. Most people don't fail because they're not talented. They fail because they keep negotiating with distractions. Social media opinions, comfort, fear, excuses, they all show up every day asking for your attention. And every time you say yes to them, you say no to your future. Focus is saying, I know this is tempting, but what I'm building matters more. Let me tell you this, clarity creates power. When you know exactly where you're going, noise starts to fade. You stop explaining yourself. You stop reacting to everything. You stop chasing applause. You wake up with a mission, and that mission gives you energy even when motivation runs out. Focus isn't loud. Focus is quiet. It's you working when nobody's clapping, grinding when nobody's watching, believing when nobody understands. Ladies and gentlemen, let me slow this thing down and talk straight to you about focus, because focus is the difference between people who dream and people who live the dream. Everybody has ideas. Everybody has goals. Everybody says one day. But focus is what turns one day into a deadline. Focus is when you stop letting everything pull you in different directions, and you finally decide, this is what I'm about, and I'm not moving off it. See, most distractions don't look dangerous. They look harmless. They look like breaks. They look like entertainment. They look like other people's opinions. But distractions are sneaky. They don't come to destroy you all at once. They come to delay you. And delay is the quiet killer of potential. You keep telling yourself you'll get serious tomorrow, next week, next year, and before you know it, years have passed and nothing has changed. Focus is waking up and realizing time is not waiting on you. When you're truly focused, your priorities change. You stop reacting to everything around you. Not every message needs a reply. Not every argument needs your energy. Not every opportunity is meant for you. Focus teaches you how to say no without explaining yourself. And that's hard for people because they want to be liked. They want to be included. They want to be seen. But let me tell you something, being seen is not the same as being successful. Sometimes the most powerful moves you'll ever make happen in silence. Focus also means accepting that the road won't always feel good. There are days you'll feel tired. Days you'll feel behind. Days you'll question yourself. But discipline is what carries you when feelings fail. Focus is choosing to work even when the excitement is gone. It's choosing consistency over comfort. Anybody can start when it feels good. Very few people can continue when it gets boring, lonely, or hard. And those few people are the ones who separate themselves from the crowd. Let me tell you another truth. Focus requires you to outgrow some people and some habits. You can't keep doing what you've always done and expect a different result. Some conversations keep you small. Some routines keep you stuck. Some environments drain your vision. Focus is being honest enough to admit that certain things, even if they feel familiar, are costing you your future. And growth will always offend comfort. Always. When you focus long enough, something powerful happens. Your mind gets sharper. Your confidence gets stronger. Not because everything is perfect, but because you trust yourself. You trust that even if it takes time, you'll stay the course. You stop comparing your journey to others because you're too busy building your own. Distractions lose their appeal because you finally see what they've been stealing from you, your time, your energy, your belief. Focus is not about doing everything at once. It's about doing the right thing repeatedly. Small steps taken daily beat big plans that never leave your head. You don't need a perfect plan. You need commitment. You need to show up even when nobody is watching, even when progress feels slow, because slow progress is still progress, and quitting is the only thing that truly stops you. And here's the real secret. When you focus on what you're supposed to do, life starts lining up differently. Opportunities make sense. Decisions get clearer. You waste less time trying to impress people who aren't going where you're going. You stop chasing approval and start chasing purpose. And that kind of focus changes not just what you achieve, but who you become. Ladies and gentlemen, let me talk to you about the kind of focus that separates the average from the extraordinary, because focus is not just about attention, it's about obedience to your purpose. When you know what you're called to do, focus becomes a responsibility. It's no longer optional. It's no longer based on how you feel that day. It becomes a decision you make every morning before the world gets a chance to distract you. Most people don't realize how much energy they lose by being unfocused. They start 10 things and finish none. They chase results without committing to the process. They want success, but they won't sit still long enough to earn it. Focus is learning how to stay with one thing long enough for it to change you. Because before your work shows results on the outside, it has to build discipline on the inside. Distractions are loud, and they're designed that way. Everything around you is competing for your attention: news, opinions, trends, comparisons. If you don't control what you consume, it will control how you think. Focus is being intentional about what you allow into your mind. What you watch, what you listen to, who you talk to, none of that is random. Every input either sharpens your vision or blurs it. And you can't stay focused on your future if you're constantly feeding your past. Let me tell you this: focus requires patience. You won't see results right away. And that's where most people quit. They mistake slow growth for failure. But anything worth building takes time. Confidence takes time. Skill takes time. Mastery takes time. Focus is trusting the process, even when the progress is invisible. It's showing up day after day with the same commitment, even when the excitement is gone. Another truth is this: focus demands self-control. You won't always feel like doing the work. You won't always feel inspired. Some days you'll feel tired, unmotivated, unsure. But focus is doing it anyway. It's understanding that feelings change, but commitments shouldn't. The people who win are not the most gifted. They are the most consistent. They learned how to keep going without applause, without validation, without instant rewards. Focus also changes how you handle setbacks. When you're focused, failure doesn't stop you, it teaches you. You stop taking things personally and start taking responsibility. You ask better questions. You adjust instead of quitting. Focus keeps you from being emotionally attached to temporary losses because you're locked in on the long-term vision. You understand that one bad day doesn't define you, and one mistake doesn't cancel your calling. Let me say something important: focus will cost you comfort. You'll have to give up habits that feel good but lead nowhere. You'll have to walk away from distractions that offer pleasure without progress. And that's not easy. But comfort never built anything great. Focus is choosing growth over ease, purpose over pleasure, discipline over distraction. It's realizing that short-term sacrifice creates long-term freedom. When you stay focused long enough, your identity begins to change. You stop seeing yourself as someone who tries and start seeing yourself as someone who finishes. That shift is powerful. It builds self-respect. It builds confidence. You begin to trust yourself because you know you'll do what you said you would do. And once you trust yourself, distractions lose their grip on you. Focus is not about perfection. It's about direction. It's about getting up every day and moving one step closer to who you're meant to be. And when you commit to that kind of focus, the noise fades, the doubt quiets down, and the path in front of you becomes clearer than it's ever been. Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you something real about focus, because focus is not a personality trait, it's a practice skill. Nobody is born focused. You build it, you train it, and you earn it by choosing what matters most over what feels easiest. Focus is not about doing more things. It's about doing fewer things with more intention and more discipline. Most people don't struggle with lack of ability. They struggle with lack of direction. They wake up every day reacting instead of leading their lives. They check their phone before they check their purpose. They let other people's urgency replace their own priorities. Focus is when you stop letting the world set your agenda and you decide what deserves your time. Because your time is your life. And once it's spent, you don't get it back. Focus also means learning how to work in silence. Not everything needs to be announced. Not every move needs validation. When you're focused, you don't need applause to keep going. You understand that the real work happens when nobody is watching. And that's hard in a world that rewards attention more than results. But attention fades. Results last. Focus teaches you to value progress over praise. Let me tell you another thing. Focus will test your patience with yourself. You will make mistakes. You will have setbacks. You will have days where you feel like you're not moving fast enough. But focus keeps you from quitting on bad days. It reminds you that growth is not always loud or visible. Sometimes growth looks like showing up again after you feel discouraged. Sometimes growth looks like doing the same boring work one more time. That's where most people fall off, but that's also where separation happens. Distractions don't just steal time, they steal belief. Every time you start something and don't finish it, you teach yourself that your word doesn't matter. Focus reverses that. Focus rebuilds trust with yourself. When you say you're going to do something and you actually do it, even when it's hard, your confidence grows. Not confidence from talking, but confidence from proof. And that kind of confidence can't be shaken easily. Focus also requires emotional maturity. You can't stay locked in if every opinion throws you off course. Everybody is going to have something to say. Some people will doubt you. Some people will misunderstand you. Some people will project their fears onto you. Focus is learning how to listen without absorbing. It's understanding that feedback is not a command and criticism is not a sentence. You stay focused by staying rooted in your own vision. Let me say this clearly. Focus is a long game. There are no shortcuts. There are no overnight wins without years of preparation behind them. When you commit to focus, you commit to patience. You commit to repetition. You commit to becoming better before becoming known. And that commitment will test you, because results don't always show up on your timeline. But quitting guarantees they never show up at all. Another thing focus teaches you is restraint. You don't chase everything that looks good. You don't jump at every opportunity. Just because you can do something doesn't mean you should. Focus helps you understand the difference between movement and progress. You can be busy and still be stuck. Focus slows you down just enough to make sure every step is actually taking you somewhere. When you stay focused long enough, your standards change. You stop tolerating chaos. You stop entertaining excuses. You stop making room for habits that don't serve you. You become more intentional with your energy, your time, and your choices. And that discipline starts showing up in every area of your life, not just your goals. Focus until distractions feel foreign, until quitting feels unnatural, until consistency becomes who you are, not something you force. Because when you reach that level of focus, success is no longer a question of if, it's only a matter of when. Ladies and gentlemen, let me speak to you about focus from a place of truth, because focus is not something you find, it's something you fight for every single day. The moment you decide to aim higher, distractions multiply. The moment you choose discipline, temptation gets louder. That's how you know your focus matters. Anything with no value doesn't get challenged. Most people think focus means cutting off the world, but real focus means mastering yourself. It means controlling your reactions, your impulses, your excuses. You don't lose focus because the world is noisy. You lose focus because you haven't decided what deserves your full attention. When your purpose is clear, confusion fades. When your vision is strong, distractions weaken. Focus also means respecting your own time. You stop wasting hours explaining yourself to people who aren't listening. You stop pouring energy into things that don't pour back into you. Time is the most expensive currency you have, and once you understand that, you stop spending it carelessly. Focus is choosing progress over popularity, growth over gossip, direction over drama. Let me tell you something important. Focus will isolate you before it elevates you. There will be moments when you feel alone in your grind. While others are relaxing, you're working. While others are distracted, you're building. That season of isolation is not punishment, it's preparation. That's where clarity is born. That's where discipline becomes natural. And that's where your character gets shaped. Focus demands honesty. You have to be honest about where you are and where you're trying to go. You can't lie to yourself and still expect progress. Focus forces you to face your weaknesses instead of hiding from them. It forces you to improve skills instead of making excuses. And growth always begins with truth, even when that truth is uncomfortable. Another thing people don't talk about is how focus sharpens your decision-making. When you're focused, decisions become simpler. Not easier, but clearer. You stop overthinking every move. You stop second-guessing yourself. You trust the process because you've committed to it. Focus gives you stability in a world full of distractions, and that stability keeps you moving forward when others are stuck in confusion. Focus also teaches you patience with outcomes. You learn to love the process instead of rushing the result. You understand that success is built daily, not delivered instantly. Focus keeps you grounded when results are slow and humble when results finally show up. It reminds you that real success is sustained, not sudden. Let me say this. Focus will test your discipline when nobody is watching, when there's no reward, when there's no recognition, when quitting would be easy and nobody would judge you for it. That's when focus becomes character. That's when it stops being about goals and starts being about who you are becoming. And who you become matters more than what you achieve. When you stay focused long enough, you stop needing external motivation. Your routine becomes your motivation. Your habits carry you forward. You don't wait to feel inspired. You move because it's who you are now. And that's when distractions lose their power, because you're no longer reacting to life, you're directing it. Focus is the quiet force that changes everything. It doesn't announce itself. It doesn't demand attention. But over time, it builds momentum so strong that nothing small can pull you off course. And when you reach that level of focus, the life you want is no longer a dream. It's a direction you're already walking in. Ladies and gentlemen, let me talk to you about focus as a form of self-respect. Because when you truly respect yourself, you stop allowing everything to interrupt your progress. Focus is you deciding that your goals deserve more attention than your excuses. It's understanding that every distraction you entertain is a signal you send to yourself about how seriously you take your future. Most people don't realize that distraction is a habit. They think it's something that just happens to them. But the truth is, every time you avoid the work, every time you escape into comfort, you're training your mind to run instead of commit. Focus retrains that mind. It teaches you how to sit with responsibility, how to stay present, how to finish what you start even when it's uncomfortable. Focus also changes how you view pressure. Pressure stops feeling like a threat and starts feeling like proof that you're doing something meaningful. When you're unfocused, pressure overwhelms you. When you're focused, pressure sharpens you. It pushes you to become better, more disciplined, more intentional. You stop asking, "Why is this so hard?" and start asking, "Who do I need to become to handle this?" Let me tell you something real. Focus requires boundaries, and boundaries make people uncomfortable. Some people will call you distant. Some will say you've changed. But what they really mean is you no longer give them unlimited access to your time and energy. Focus teaches you that not everyone deserves a front row seat in your life. And that's not selfish, that's necessary for growth. Focus also forces you to confront your habits. You can't stay focused while living on autopilot. You have to pay attention to what you do daily, not occasionally. The way you start your morning, the way you handle your time, the way you respond to setbacks, those small patterns shape your future. Focus is choosing habits that move you forward instead of habits that keep you busy but stuck. Another truth about focus is that it builds emotional strength. When you're focused, you don't panic at every obstacle. You don't crumble under criticism. You don't quit because something didn't go as planned. Focus gives you the ability to stay calm under pressure, to think clearly when things go wrong, and to keep moving when others shut down. That emotional stability becomes one of your greatest assets. Focus also teaches you humility. You realize you don't know everything. You accept that learning is part of the process. You're willing to be a beginner again. You stop pretending and start improving. That humility keeps you growing. It keeps you open to correction without losing confidence. Focus is not about ego, it's about excellence. Let me say this clearly, focus is built in repetition. Doing the same right thing over and over again, even when it's boring, even when it feels small, that repetition creates mastery, and mastery creates freedom. The freedom to move without doubt. The freedom to trust your abilities. The freedom to ignore distractions, because you know exactly what you're working toward. When you stay focused long enough, you start to recognize distractions faster. You don't debate with them anymore. You don't romanticize them. You see them for what they are, detours. And because your vision is clear, detours no longer tempt you. You understand that every no you say to distraction is a yes to progress. Focus is not about perfection. It's about alignment, aligning your actions with your intentions, aligning your time with your goals, aligning your discipline with your dreams. And when those things line up, your life starts moving in a direction that finally makes sense. Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you something about focus that most people never hear. Focus is a commitment to yourself that shows up before results ever do. It's easy to stay focused when things are working. The real test is whether you can stay locked in when nothing seems to be changing, because that's where most people lose it. They confuse silence with failure. They think because nobody sees it yet, it's not working. But focus understands that roots grow underground before anything shows above the surface. Focus also means learning how to manage your inner conversation. The biggest distractions are not outside of you, they're inside of you. Doubt, fear, overthinking, impatience. Those voices will try to convince you to stop, to slow down, to settle. Focus is recognizing those thoughts without obeying them. You don't argue with them. You don't fight them. You just keep moving. That's maturity. That's growth. Let me tell you this, focus sharpens your instincts. When you stay committed long enough, you start to know what's right for you without needing approval. You stop asking everybody for advice. You stop changing directions every time someone has an opinion. Focus teaches you how to trust your judgment. And when you trust yourself, you stop being easily distracted by noise that has nothing to do with your purpose. Focus also requires accountability. You stop blaming circumstances. You stop blaming people. You stop blaming timing. You look in the mirror and take ownership. Focus says, if it's going to change, it starts with me. And that level of responsibility is uncomfortable for some people because excuses are easier than effort. But focus refuses to let you hide behind excuses. Another thing about focus, it changes how you see failure. Failure stops being an ending and starts being information. You don't quit because something didn't work. You adjust, you refine, you improve. Focus keeps you learning instead of leaving. And every lesson you stay long enough to learn makes you stronger the next time around. Focus also builds resilience. When you're focused, setbacks don't knock you down the same way. You feel them, but you don't stay there. You recover faster. You bounce back stronger. You understand that obstacles are part of the process, not signs that you're on the wrong path. Focus gives you the strength to keep showing up even when life doesn't cooperate. Let me say something real. Focus will challenge your identity. You can't stay focused and stay the same person. Old habits have to go. Old mindsets have to go. Old excuses have to go. Growth demands change, and focus forces that change. You start becoming someone who values discipline over drama, consistency over comfort, purpose over pleasure. And that transformation doesn't happen overnight, but it happens for sure if you stay focused. Focus also teaches you how to wait without quitting. Waiting doesn't mean doing nothing. Waiting means working while trusting the timing. Focus keeps you active while patience keeps you grounded. Together, they prevent you from rushing into decisions that look good short term but cost you long term. Focus helps you delay gratification because you understand what you're building is bigger than the moment. When you stay focused long enough, something powerful happens. You stop being impressed by shortcuts. You stop envying fast success. You respect the grind because you understand what it builds in you. You become solid. You become reliable. You become someone who finishes. And that reputation, the one you build with yourself first, is worth more than applause. Focus until quitting doesn't make sense anymore. Focus until distractions feel like interruptions instead of invitations. Focus until discipline becomes normal and excuses feel uncomfortable. Because once you reach that level, nothing small can pull you off course, and nothing temporary can make you forget why you started.